end of July this year, 2022, I made a dream of mine come true and achieved a personal goal of mine. A goal that I had set last year in August. Now, I had created a plan to achieve that goal, and achieve it I have in actually a slightly shorter time frame than anticipated. Now, what's the goal? Well, I bought my first supercar. That car is a McLaren 570 GT. Now, I don't currently have the car with me. It's currently waiting on plates from the DMV, but I was just notified today that those plates are here, they're being sent out, and I will pick up the car tomorrow. The DMV was a little late on that one, to nobody's surprise. However, I'm going to overlay some video of the car here so you guys can take a look at it. It's a McLaren 570 GT in vermilion red. It's got the carbon exterior option for the side mirrors and intake. It's got the carbon interior components, Alcantara wheel, leather, everything else, which is great. Much easier to clean than Alcantara. It's got the body matched seat belt, the MSO titanium super sports exhaust, which is 5 decibels louder than the sports exhaust option. Body matched calipers, black wheels. Overall, in my opinion, a really solid spec, and give or take exactly what I was looking for in a McLaren. Now that you know a little bit about the car, I'd like to talk a bit about my experience with McLaren as a buyer. It started out with taking a ride to McLaren Boston to check out the lot. Something that I'll do occasionally to take a look at what's out there and, to see some nice cars. Because who doesn't like doing that? Now, I noticed a couple of pretty nice 570S Spiders that were there, and these just came in. They weren't on the site at all, and at the time I was pretty interested in possibly acquiring a 570S Spider. However, another car that was also pretty new to the lot was there besides them, this beautiful 570 GT. And the more I kind of looked at them side by side, looked at the S next to the GT, the more I kind of liked the visual aesthetic of the GT slightly more. However, I was still pretty interested in acquiring a Spider. For the summer, it'd be cool to have a convertible. So I messaged McLaren to inquire about them. And very shortly after, I was contacted by a salesperson, and they had mentioned that they literally just got those Spiders in, and they weren't ready to be sold. They didn't even have a price on them just yet. But I did also mention the GT that I saw. And so he said, well, why don't you come by and take a look at it? And I mean, I was just there looking at it, but I didn't get, a really good look at it. I didn't get to see the interior. I didn't get to hear the car start or anything like that, because McLaren Boston's open by appointment only. So I couldn't just, go in and get somebody to show me the car. So I figured, sure, why not? I figured, especially now that I'm interested in the car as a potential buyer, it makes a lot of sense to, go and have a much closer look at the car. So I pick a day to get there, and when that day comes, I get there, I head to the showroom, and there are so many nice cars there. There's some really nice 720s, some 720S Spiders, 600 LTs. There's a beautiful Huracan STO that they had just got in. That showroom was incredible. So I meet with my salesperson, chat for a little bit. He goes to get the car. He brings it around, and the idle sound on this car is just incredible. I mean, it sounds way better than I thought it might. And the videos that I do have of it, it just doesn't really do it justice. You have to hear this thing in person. So we walk around it for a bit, and he's giving me a lot of info about the car. So I finally get to look at the interior, and he actually let me sit in it. I'd never sat in a McLaren before. I've sat in some Huracans, but never McLaren. And just by sitting in there, you can tell, visibility looks great. It's already better than what I remember from the Huracan. So once I get out, to my surprise, he asks me if I want to take it for a drive. How do you say no to that question, for starters? But of course I'm like, yes. Once I hand him my license to go make a copy of it, the anxiety hits me hard. And I am obviously super nervous to drive this thing. I've never driven anything this expensive before, much less a supercar. My Maserati was about the most expensive thing I've driven prior to this. So once he goes over everything and we get going, I'm obviously being super careful with this car, like very, very careful. As a matter of fact, I don't even turn out of the dealership until there is literally nobody coming on the road at all, and I can definitely make it. The nerves were without a doubt kicking in full force, but to my surprise, about 10 minutes into the drive or so, might be like 8 or 10 minutes or so, after a while of actually driving the car, the nerves kind of vanish. The car just felt really easy to drive. It felt very capable, and as my salesperson had said, it's very accessible. You almost forget that you're in something that's so expensive and special. That is, of course, until we slowed down a little bit, we hit some traffic, we got to a two-way road, and I then could finally notice everybody on the other side of the road, like every other car, was either pointing or staring at the car. And that's when it really hits you just how much attention this thing gets. Where I live, I get attention from driving the Maserati from time to time. But this was an entirely different level. And mind you, this isn't a place where there are a fair amount of really nice cars. I'm going to say that this is definitely something that if you're not used to it already, you would for sure have to get used to this. But outside of that, everything about the drive itself was great. The handling, the sound of the car, the ride quality was really, really good, surprisingly so. I mean, it was basically on par with my Ghibli in terms of comfort. Yeah, it might have been a little more rough, but honestly not bad at all. The largest thing that really stood out to me was just the brake feel. It felt quite a bit different than what I'm used to. It felt pretty heavy, but it's something that over the course of the drive, you tend to get used to. And I can say that after having driven the car a couple more times since then, I'm honestly completely used to it. But if I wasn't already sold by the aesthetic of the car in the spec, the drive 100% sold me. I mean, I had to have this thing. So after that, we went inside. It was an incredibly smooth process, incredibly quick. I was probably in and out within an hour, not including the test drive. I filled out some applications. I put a deposit down on the car to hold it, and we chatted for a little bit, and that was it. The very next day, my financing was approved. I wired the down payment the same day, and we were good to go. Since then, it's gotten total PPF done. It's gotten the registration done, and my salesperson was always keeping me in the loop the entire time, every step of the way, sending me picture updates of the PPF, sending me updates regarding the registration and the plates. I've honestly got nothing but good things to say about my experience with the McLaren so far. I know there are people that have an opposing opinion, but I am not one of those. At least not now. However, I'll be sure to keep you updated throughout my ownership of this car. And I'm looking forward to putting out ownership reviews and various other things similar to what I did for the Maserati. So if you enjoyed those, they're coming for the McLaren as well. All in due time though. I do like to own and drive the car for a little while before I give an actual review on it. I think that's only fair. Anyhow, thanks for watching. The very next video will likely be a tour of my McLaren 570 GT. So if that sounds interesting to you, make sure you stick around. I'll see you next time.